one folder that has 100 things in it.
Goodbye.
So I go,
Goodbye.
"Oh,
Goodbye. 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 I think that's all right.
Nice.
Hello, everybody in TV land.
Oh, did you go live while I was talking about your desktop icons?
No, you're mumbling really loudly, so nobody. You're mumbling very softly, so I don't think anybody heard it.
Good.
Yeah. How you guys doing?
I'm happy. How are you?
Yo. Feeling all
How are
right?
you doing? Like, good?
Trying a new angle on the Mix Wednesday thing. The three of us across the middle because it's kind of like a talking head thing. Figure,
Fun.
Why not? I'll try something new.
It's a different one. It's cool. Yeah, I like it.
Very cool. I gotta open up with the YouTube page. So
Yep.
what's going on here?
So yeah, I was watching that Pro Studio Live class today.
Yep.
The one
Okay.
that is basically exactly the same topic we're talking about today at exactly the same time today.
And how was it, Ryan? Did you learn anything?
No, but then again, in the first 30 minutes of anybody's presentation, they kind of meander.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't really know. The production quality is great. It looked really good.
That's cool. Was it interactive, or was it or was it a video?
There's a chat on the site. It was real time. It looked good.
That's cool. That's pretty cool.
Anyway, so since you know what they're doing, then I guess you know what we're doing today. But we win.
Yeah, we win because we're Mix Wednesday, and that's I don't know who that was, but
they're Pro Studio Live teaching mixing on a Wednesday. Shit.
That's annoying. Damn it. So,
all right.
No, it's whatever.
So our topic today, we felt like having kind of a conversational talk today rather than a very technical Pro Tools based class. Reason being is we've had a lot of kind of technical classes that were pretty deep lately, and with the mood of the country today and all that, we figured we'd keep it lighthearted and fun and positive, and creating a viable business.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that helps with these classes that are very non-technical is that it kind of outlines our conversational based mentality when it comes to Mix Wednesday. We don't ever really want to strictly be the guys that tell you 5 ways to create a better vocal ever. That's just not our game. We kind of strive to push the conversational aspect of mixing and a lot. One of the reasons is because we have lots of interesting conversations about mixing. So bringing it into a conversation for you guys and kind of giving you guys an understanding what we talk about sometimes. It's really enlightening, and it's been enlightening for me. So it's better that you guys see that side of it as well.
Are you saying that there's only 5 ways to make a vocal better?
I'm saying there are plenty of ways to make a vocal better.
5, Dan. Why don't we talk about them?
Well, Ryan, first you got to grab your FabFilter Pro Q, and then you got to take that thing. No, I'm kidding.
And then you got to buy a $10,000 compressor, and that makes everything better.
Then you got to buy a subwoofer, because you can't mix music without a subwoofer.
In fact, you can't mix music, period, because you're not a professional.
And then you get all about the babes.
All about the bees. Yeah.
No, I said babes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that too, I guess.
Yeah, whatever.
All right. Anyways, so
who's here?
To be kind of on topic, maybe. Yeah. About creating a viable mix business. And I realize that sounds a little vague when you say it that way, but I think the ultimate goal of most people that are a part of this group is to be able to earn money from mixing records and potentially earn enough money to make it a full-time career. And
I wish I was.
Some people just want to do it for fun, and that's awesome and that's great. But for those of you that just want to do it for fun, I don't think you'd be upset earning a little bit of side bucks.
Yep.
and it would be okay. So there's a lot of kind of negativity out there about how professional unless you have a ton of gear, or you can't be a professional unless you have, you know, a studio you're working in, and you can't be a professional unless you have a whole load of credits, and you can't do this and that and this and that. And I think we want to keep this conversation about what you can do and how you can succeed really positive. So I don't know if you had a particular order for how you wanted to jump into this, Dan, but I like letting you lead because you're usually quite good at it.
Well, thanks, Ryan. The reason I
You're very
wanted,
welcome.
yeah, no, I'm totally willing. I think the reason I decided to start, I decided for us, I think the reason why I wanted to start talking about this topic was because I think starting a business is probably one of the most difficult things you can do. You know, it's difficult, it's complex, there's a lot of different moving parts. And at the core, you gotta really, if you're someone like me who's really, you know, questions a lot of stuff that you do, just because you're just like, man, is that the right thing to do? I don't know. You're always kind of questioning yourself and making sure and adjusting and pivoting to try and make the right decisions and set yourself up for success the best way you possibly can. Now, with mixing and with creating a business in mixing, I know a lot of guys that say, man, I don't handle any of the business stuff, I just mix. I know a lot of guys who handle both the business stuff and they mix. Then I know people that don't really have much of a business in mixing. They just kind of mix for fun, but they make some cash doing it, you know? And then I know people who make, you know, their mixes aren't very good, but they somehow keep doing it as a full-time job. So there's a lot of... who is that?
Who sucks? Tell me.
So there are a lot of different aspects to creating a viable mixing business, and I want to know, and I want to chat about and open up the conversation about, you know, how does one go about achieving that? Because I feel like at a certain point in everybody's mixing career, they kind of take certain steps to shift their entire lives towards a specific direction. If that direction is I want to mix records professionally, maybe they're constantly changing and pivoting to move towards that. You know what I mean? Maybe that's their big picture. They want to be the person that does all the mixing professionally in their home or in a studio that they own. If it is, I want to do this on the side, maybe that's a different kind of conversation. But I think for me, I was exploring the idea of like, well, if I just bought a facility, you know, would people come? You know, like if I bought a facility with tons of gear and tons of just ridiculous stuff, and my mixes sounded all right, like what would that gain for me? You know what I mean? Like what would that do for me? And I'm sitting here just inside of my head thinking about like all of the different things that would have to happen for that to happen. You know what I mean? And there's all these questions that came up like, well, where would you get the money for that? How would you raise the money for that? Where would you get the gear? Is the clientele gonna, you know, like so many different things that came into my head when I was thinking about this. So today when we were rattling off ideas for Mix Wednesday, I kind of wanted to, I suggested that, and Ryan, you immediately were like, I love those conversations.
I mean, it's the reason I love those conversations is because I've kind of gone through it in a bunch of different ways. You know, yeah. I went through it in the time when I was a student, you know, in a very particular way, you know, paying rent, mixing and stuff. And then going on to doing all the live stuff and more by doing live stuff. And then even that itself changed. That didn't stay the same the whole way through it.
Yeah.
And then eventually going from that to just mixing full time again, but in New York, and then going to where I am now. So like the conversations about creating viable business out of something I feel like I have a good amount to contribute to since I've sole income for, you know, 10 years or something.
Yeah.
That's why I really enjoy these conversations. Plus, it's such a flexible conversation. It's never, this is the answer, that is the answer. It's almost like, how do I market a product? You know what I mean? There's a million different ways you can do it. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. Because if someone was right, everyone would do it that way, and all of a sudden that way wouldn't work anymore. Because that's how marketing works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if everybody does it the same way, then nobody gets to succeed. So conversations in particular are really interesting.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. it's definitely like, and I think that's where my biggest question is, because I think, let's put it this way. Let's say, let's say I had to categorize things that achieved my personal success, or whatever my definition of personal success was. Sometimes I kind of classify success as, or most often I never classify success as I'm making money. Like, I never really do that, because at a certain point, like, because you could argue things that, like, there are things that are completely successful that make zero money. For instance, Mix Wednesday. We've achieved a certain level of success without making any money talking to you guys at home about mixing. That's incredible, right? It's absolutely incredible. So it's more than money. It's more about just creating a thing, doing it, and then can you continue to do your thing and not have to worry about the money? You know what I mean? And that's sometimes how I define the success. But of course, there are certain things like a mixing business that has to make money, especially if it's your full-time thing.
Right.
So for me, if I when I got out of college, I just said well, actually, when I was in high school, I said I just wanted to do music, and I just propelled my way in that direction the entire time until I landed a job at Gibson, Cakewalk, and then I met you guys, and then, like, this happened, and now I'm like in New York City, and I'm working for Live Nation and Gibson, and it's just super wacky. And yesterday I helped set up Sting. It's just like there's a lot of crazy shit happening, and to some people, to me, I don't really think I'm like success, but so it's, in a way, I've achieved a level of success that I don't think anybody else has, or people have. It's kind of weird. So,
well, the thing is that everybody's idea of success is different, right?
Exactly.
I mean, again, you just said you just got to work on a show for Sting. To some people, that is the pinnacle of everything you could possibly be doing, and you're like, yeah, it was cool. It's like not a big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that in itself, it gives some perspective on where your view of success is. It's not just I happen to do this thing for Sting, but what I'm trying to do is like up here,
Yeah, exactly.
It's a cool place, because some people, again, would be like, that would be the pinnacle. So it's important to convey that there's totally varying and totally acceptable levels of success. Like, nobody needs to be doing one versus the other. Everyone can do whatever they want.
Exactly. So I think it's
there, but I don't want you to downplay the cool shit that you do, which you tend to do. You tend to downplay the cool shit you do, so you guys just go, yeah, this is whatever, man. I kind of just did this record and it was fucking amazing,
Exactly. Yeah. So it's crazy.
Get some compliments on a record I did that I totally forgot about today, so that was pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
That's awesome, man.
Cool. Compliments from like an audio dude who also loved metal.
Nice.
That's fucking rad, man. That's
making
awesome.
Comments about like the drum sound and how dynamic everything was, but how much power it had. And I'm like, that was a little boost, that felt great.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, I happen to be mixing. Yeah, it was cool.
I actually did that whole record, from start to finish, and I had everything to do with it.
That's awesome, man.
That's awesome.
That's rad.
Don't downplay the amazing stuff that both you guys do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the question, I guess, is at what point do you for me, like, I've just been kind of doing things as they come, because I've had opportunities that I like, I get these opportunities to say, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll do that, and I kind of make certain movements in certain directions. But let's say the next thing I wanted to do was to be a full-time mixing engineer. Like, what is, for me, it's like I say, yes, that's what I want to do. I want to mix records in my house professionally all the time. And but the thing is, then it's like, for me, it's like I almost know some answers, but I don't know all of the answers. And I know, like, well, maybe you should start acting like a full-time mixing engineer. Maybe you should start doing things that a full-time mixing engineer does. You know what I mean? I don't know the answers, but I almost want to pick it apart and just be like, well, yeah, I want to do this. You know what I mean? But how do I get there? And it's almost like getting caught up in these details, but there's a goal there as well. It's a super strange conversation I've been having in my head recently.
Interesting. So, I mean, what did you decide was the answer to, at what point do you decide to make mixing full time?
I guess it's the time. I mean, the answer. I think the answer is once you. For me, like, I feel like once you start having enough clients that support you fiscally, and you can make it a full time thing, it's almost that's like when you can just do it full time. You know what I mean?
Right.
But the thing is, I don't know if that's the only thing that leads to having a successful mixed business, because I feel like I know plenty of people that are doing that, yet they don't consider themselves successful. It's that same thing we were just talking about. You know what I mean?
Problem is that if you take what you have and you call it success, then you're never going to get better.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? So I'll bet you years ago, you would have called it successful to be mixing a record for a band that's paying you good money to do it.
That's true. Yeah.
And then once you started doing that, that wasn't enough. And then it became, now I want to be mixing a better record. Now I want to be tracking it. Now I want to be doing larger artists. Now I want to be doing this enough to pay rent.
Mhm.
Now I want to have a career in audio. That, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Your level of what you consider success escalates.
Right.
Right. So
Exactly.
ask for me the question, at what point do you decide to make full-time business, is actually kind of a two-part question.
Okay.
One part is, at what point do you decide to commit into mixing, even though it's not actually your income? And that is the time commitment that is to make it your income.
I see.
Does that make sense? Because, if you're doing it as a side gig and you're slowly getting better and better and better, you will get better and better and better, right?
Yeah.
Right.
What I've found just by doing it a lot is that the more you do it, the better you get quicker.
I see.
So if you're doing a mix every single day, you will be a million times better one week, almost regardless of what else you're learning.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe. Yeah. 7 times exactly. That's how many days are. Sure, there's not a million days in a week. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, let's keep it really.
It's like a really long week.
It's a really long week.
Include the weekend. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brutal.
But you get what I'm saying though. So at some point, if you decide what you want to do is make mixing a full-time business for yourself, your work end needs to kind of turn up to reflect that.
Yes.
You're working on enough stuff and improving enough to the point that you feel like you have the quality that puts you on par with something that might be competition. You don't have to be on par with Manny American, because he's not your competition, at least not for a while.
Right.
On par with anyone that is within your price range and local to you as well, and is your direct competition. In fact, being on par isn't good enough, because you have to be better if you want to actually win. And then once you get to that point, then it becomes the decision of, can this be financially viable? Is this something that I can, within a reasonable doubt, it doesn't have to be for a fact, because everything that is kind of worth risking on, it's never going to be 100%. I mean, even if you get a day job working somewhere, that's still not 100%. You can get fired in 2 weeks for all you know, right?
Oh yeah, totally.
We all like to say that that my job is real, and I'm going to keep it, and I'm going to have it for as long as I want. Well, that's because we're in a place where we go, there's enough reason to believe that this will be successful.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you can do the same thing with mixing. You can go, okay, as of right now, my mix quality is here. I know I can achieve XYZ clientele. I've got this stuff under my belt. Does XYZ clientele earn me enough money to be able to pay my bills?
Right.
If the answer is yes, then that's easy. If the answer is no, it's still possible, because you can go, okay, does it achieve me enough that I can do this as my day job, gig, something else that earns me just enough to make sure I hit my goals?
Right.
It's it's not like mixing always has to be the side gig. You could be a mix engineer that, serves tables for until you have the clientele
Right.
that keeps you afloat entirely. I think that's kind of a little bit of a problem of perception as well, is that these days there's a lot of people that go, if I'm doing anything else, that something else is my main job, mixing's on the side. That's not necessarily the truth.
I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. So this idea of becoming a full-time mixing engineer starts. It's almost like it has to start in a place way before any expectations of money is considered even an actual a subject matter. You know what I mean? It's almost like when people say, I'm going to be an actor or an actress. They move to LA and they say, I'm going to start waiting tables until I book something. You know what I mean? And I think that's the most probably what scare, like, in my opinion, I don't know, Kenny or Ryan, if you guys think differently. I feel like that's the leap of faith that many people don't take because of the exact issue that it puts out. I live a certain way that requires a certain sum of money, and in order to continue living that way, or whatever I feel, I need to have this certain sum of money. The thing that I'm doing on the side doesn't make that that kind of money yet. So it's going to continue to stay a side thing until it becomes that. The double-edged sword here is that it may never become the full-time thing because you keep it the side thing.
All right, we'll put it this way. Imagine if you were offered your dream job at your favorite company ever. Let's say it is, for Pixar.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And they go, cool, we're only willing to pay you $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
Enough for you to live. Maybe what you need to live is 50, right? Because the Bay Area is insanely expensive, and even 50 actually sounds like it's barely manageable.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, right? Let whatever it may be.
Yeah.
At that point, would you pick up a side gig to support your income in order to achieve your dream job?
I mean, if your side gig, if you're that invested in working for Pixar, then I guess someone would. But yeah, I mean, if your dream is to do that, like that is a thing that you want to do for the rest of your life and never second to question it. Anything you can do to support that lifestyle, I would do. You know what I mean?
We're talking your dream job here, right? If this is the one thing you always wanted to do forever, if someone gave you an offer to be able to do it, but it was less money than you wanted, you actually cared about that being your dream, you'd take it and you'd find whatever other means to make sure you can still succeed at it.
Yeah, I the analogous, is that the right word? Yeah.
Analogous.
Yeah, I can't say that word. Anyways, today I can't say that word. I think the better comparison, or a similar comparison, is if Pixar was just like, you are going to be our intern for the next 8 months. Can you do this? And you're like,
right. Yeah.
Yep. You know what I mean? I'll make it work.
Difference between the intern thing. Actually, no, it's not, because then if someone asked you what you did, you'd say, "Oh, I intern at Pixar."
That's
You
pretty
wouldn't know,
fucking good.
I'm also a bartender at the spot down the street because that's how I pay my bills.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that right there is the differential between the idea of mixing being your side gig and mixing being what you want to do as a career. If it's what you want to do as a career, you decide to make that your priority, and then something else becomes your side gig that supplements your income.
Yeah. That's cool, man. And Kenny, obviously, I know you haven't said much yet, but I mean, your opinion here is more than valid and very necessary, considering you own and operate a recording studio.
Yeah.
So
You're like, yeah, I do, motherfucker.
Yeah.
So I mean, at what point did you decide that? I mean, is your recording studio and everything is? You said it's like it is a full-time job, or it? I mean, I don't know if I had a recording. I don't know, like what.
I view your studio as a full-time thing for you right now, at least.
Yeah.
I'd like to think it is. I'd like it to be, but kind of up and down. Sometimes I'm doing stuff all the time, and then sometimes it's more few and far between. Depends on what's going on in my life and what the demand is.
Is that ultimately by your choice?
What's that?
Your own choice, though?
Somewhat. Some of it. A lot of it isn't.
Yeah. I was going to say, it kind of feels like sometimes every once in a while, you're just not that interested in pursuing studio at the time just because there's other stuff going on.
Yeah. I mean, it's my choice, but influenced by not my choice.
Yeah. Well, Dan, what about yourself? I mean, what has been your path in terms of, deciding to make, audio industry in some way your full-time business? I mean, what has it been?
Basically, I just want to, for me, I personally just want to be able to support myself with things that I've have fun doing. You know what I mean? Like I want to be excited about the things that I do every day, and that kind of is what's been driving every single opportunity that's come my way. So regardless, I've been trying to achieve that kind of quote unquote success. Working on records has been really fun, and mixing records has been incredibly fun. Now that I'm doing live stuff, I want to just start tracking records. You know what I mean? I just want to be like, let's have fun. Let's get into a studio, no audience, set this thing up, and start cutting takes. You know what I mean? With an awesome band, and putting it on a record. And that would be so much fun. So it's really, I've always been trying to move from one fun thing to the next fun thing that makes me money, but you get stuck along the way financially because you need to go ahead and have some sort of income. So it's weird. Like I play it safe a lot. To some degree, I always play it safe. I feel like, but that's kind of been my path, and I kind of want to break out of that, and I haven't yet, or at least I don't feel like I have. You know what I mean?
But what are the things you've done that you felt were unsafe, and did they work out?
Unsafe was first going to college for music. Second, then leaving college and just saying I'm staying living in a big city. I'm not going to move back in with my parents. I refuse to. That's the past. This is the present. Then taking a job at a company in a position that I did not think I thought I was overqualified for. And then from there, taking every single promotion since that first job that I got, and then after that, saying I'm going to move to New York City because I'm just going to do that, and after that, just doing it and just being like, well, I'm just going to do it. Let's see what happens.
So to be honest, it sounds like every single one you've just mentioned is a massive part of what's led to your current success.
That's correct. That is correct.
Those don't sound like high risk, do they?
I mean, they feel high risk financially. At least that's what I kind of.
They felt high risk at the time, but when you actually statistically put it up against your success rate on these things, clearly they're pretty well planned. So it's not a bad thing.
That's interesting. Yeah, I never thought about that. That's pretty interesting. As far as you now, so we've been on this topic for about a half hour now, or maybe 25 minutes, and I feel like it's a good topic. It's very important to chat about. But I haven't really heard about what you or how any of your paths to your success have kind of. I've never seen the road that led from one thing to another, Ryan. Because with you, you have many years of experience in multiple different aspects of success, like you were saying. But there's no clear line between the different things of success that you've ever drawn for anybody or me. You know what I mean? So I'm curious to know if you took a chunk out of your life to explain. Could you take a chunk out of your life to explain how one thing led to another that led to that particular success?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is kind of interesting because some of them are almost unconnected, but they're all connected because all of them still allowed me to financially support myself to do them.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
There's still some sort of connection there where even if I was jumping from one thing to another, it was done in a transitional manner wherein I didn't end up in a hole in between,
Mm-hmm.
So
Tell us your story.
tell me a story. So when I used to play the guitar.
Okay.
No, but I used to play in a band, like literally from like onwards. In middle school, I used to play with a bunch of dudes, and we actually played a show here and there. And I think it was freshman year of high school. I recorded a record, I went with a band that I was playing with, and we went to a studio and recorded a record.
Mhm.
This $600. $600 for a bunch of kids in like 1999 or something like that, or 1998 is a shitload of money.
Yeah, it is definitely.
We each put in like $150 or something, and it's still a lot of money, but like,
Yeah.
it kind of worked out.
Where what?
But then again, if I think about it now, and someone told me you could do a record for $600, I'd be like, holy shit, where is that?
Right.
So anyways, we put in a bunch of money and we did this record, and it was a cool experience. I got total gear lust. I was like, oh my God, look at all these knobs and all this shit, and this thing sounds awesome, and I just got really excited. The kind of advent of being able to record at home was just coming about. I had, some of the, I had bought one of those Tascam 4-track cassette recorders,
Yep.
where you could like, and overdub and all that crap. And I started recording our stuff using that, and literally like Radio Shack microphones,
Wow.
because we wanted to keep putting out records, but we didn't have the kind of money to be able to go back and go back and go back to the studio.
Yeah.
Plus, the release cycle of being able to put out a record shortened if we were just making them ourselves.
Yeah. I see. what you mean.
Because we record our rehearsals. And eventually we started recording our rehearsals on a mini disc. Remember when that was the thing?
Yeah. I remember those.
I was like, this shit sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was
Yeah.
sweet.
I still have a bunch of mini discs from like 98, 99, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But mini disc was a digital input, so you could technically do multi-tracking on it because you record in mono and multi-track on the next track, and then you could stem them down like using whatever players you had. It depended, but
Yeah.
us making basically a record every 3 months.
Mhm.
At the time, nobody else was really doing, because it wasn't really viable unless you owned the stuff to do it.
I see.
And we also used to play a lot. We'd play 3 to 5 shows a week. Like, music was pretty serious.
Yeah.
So we'd meet all these other bands, and we'd just give them a CD, and the next time we'd see them, we'd have another record or another EP or whatever it was. It was like 3 songs or something.
Right.
And they were all like, how the fuck did you do that? And then next show we'd see them, we'd have a different one. They're like, how the fuck did you do that? And all the local bands around started asking me to record their stuff. And it's not
wow.
because our stuff sound great, but it's because we gave them the opportunity to reduce their release cycle. They could put out records whenever they wanted.
Interesting.
It wasn't expensive, and it was easy, and it was just hanging out. I mean, again, we've talked about this a bunch of times. Kenny, that's how you and I met. I ended up doing some songs for your band.
Mhm.
It was actually only 2 songs, right? It wasn't even like a full record.
4 songs.
Songs, yeah, so a basic EP, and it sounded all right, right?
That was,
Yeah,
it was
definitely.
awesome.
Yeah, so that's what kind of converted me from doing playing into doing the production stuff, because when you play, you only get to play for your one band.
Yeah, it's true.
Band succeeded, great, cool, but you're also relying upon all your other members. But when you are doing production, you can do production for your own band and everybody else's band.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden I started doing all this production stuff, and then I actually decided to go to college and get a degree in that. So while I was getting a degree in audio, kept recording all these bands.
Right.
I started earning money doing it. And, the first couple bands that asked me to do this, when we were, still doing this mini disc thing, and like it was kind of shitty at the time, I'd get like $50 from a band, 4 songs.
Yeah.
Which is not a lot of money, but all that money ended up getting reinvested right back in. So I ended up buying like this Lexicon audio interface. It was one of the first ones that you could plug into a computer that wasn't like TDM Pro Tools rig or something like that.
I see.
And it was like 4 inputs, and I started using some free software like maybe Acid Pro, SoundForge, or Sony or whatever it was at the time. And multi-track, I could do 16 tracks, so it was a real small thing, and it just kind of got bigger and bigger and bigger and snowballed. And every time I started doing for someone, I'd make a little bit of money and put it straight back into buying more gear.
Gotcha.
Also, remember, this is like when I was in high school, and then like I started going to college, so it's not like I had to pay my bills.
Right. I see what you mean.
I started it early enough that like the money coming in, it was not what affected my ability to do it.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And get a gig would matter. Anyways, so that just kind of snowballed, and all of a sudden I was doing so many records that enough money that I could pay for things, and I moved over to somewhere else and got all the gear in my own house that I was living in with my band, and then we were recording stuff for our band all the time, and then other bands would come in and record in our space, pay a bit of money and whatnot, and it just kind of slowly happened like that. And then California to go to another audio degree, and while I was here, I probably did. Let's see, I did 22 full albums in the course of 2 years. So I did basically 1 album a month.
Damn.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Tracking and mixing?
That was mixing for sure. Some of them I tracked as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, I ended up doing 1 album a month. And I mean, it didn't actually start that way. I'm pretty sure the first like 2 or 3 months, something I did none. But then, by the end of it, I was doing like 2 or 3 in a month. So it kind of averaged out.
Yeah.
It was more just I pursued everybody all the time. So anybody who came in, or bands that would come through the tiny little venue I was working in, I'd say, hey, I'll mix your record, and I did, and that supported me. That paid my rent. It was actually kind of awesome. It worked out really, really well to be able to pay for everything. And then one of those bands one day, and at this point, I'm making enough to pay rent, but it's kind of meager if you realistically want to think about it. I mean, it's not like I could go buy a house or go buy a car with what I'm making. I'm making enough to pay rent.
Right, of course.
And asked me if I wanted to do a short tour with them. It was just like California, and I think maybe something in like Washington State or Oregon. We did like 5 or 6 shows. And they were like, "Oh, you do audio stuff, right? You want to come do this?" And I had so much fun, but I mean, I fucked those shows up pretty bad. Like, they did not sound great.
That's funny.
When you learn that you can do whatever the hell you want within like Pro Tools or whatnot, you definitely translate that over to live, and you're like, oh yeah, we'll put 2 compressors on this vocal in parallel, and like, you're like, maybe don't start simple.
I see what you mean.
But anyways, so then there was that, and I did that, and then from there, I mean, the way that even came up is just because I kept meeting bands that were coming through this tiny little venue I was working at. I was working at this venue here, making like $100 a night, making off like this tiny little Mackie. But I met every single local band guy for every single local band. Every single one of those bands did their record with me.
I see what you mean.
So even though I made only $100 from that, it turned into, I don't know, like 90 new clients or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Every one of those guys, paid me some money, even if they didn't want to do a record with me and have me track it.
Yeah.
I could still keep mixing it.
Yeah.
It had a whole load of benefit that was way beyond just being a guy doing sound in this tiny little shit venue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And then I went and did this California one, and I was like, wow, touring is pretty cool. And then I didn't do it for a while. I just kept going and doing the shows. I have an affinity for making friends with people, and when I go to places, I just make friends with people. Yeah. And I remember going to an Earth, Wind & Fire show a long time ago, and I ended up walking up to front of house and chatting with their front of house guy, TJ.
Mm-hmm.
TJ and I just stayed in touch. It was one of those things, I know we've talked about this before. It was one of those things where way you ask a question implies knowledge.
Yeah, I see.
You know, like if I say, you know, what kick mic do you use?
Right.
Or, you know, that's the same question that everybody asks, and it doesn't tell them anything about what you know.
Right.
But,
Exactly.
you know, I really like the relationship between your kick and your bass, and the way it just feels very clean. Is there any sort of side chaining going on there, or did you just pick EQ bands to sit each in one another? You know, like questions like that
Yeah.
imply that you understand everything that led up to it, and now you're focused on the detail.
Interesting.
And I guess I asked TJ a bunch of questions like that. He actually told me that I did that before I ever realized I did that, because he offered me a touring gig without ever hearing me mix, and yeah, like he offered me to fill in a gig that he couldn't do. And this is the sound guy for Earth, Wind, and Fire. It's not like that's a small dude who know a lot.
No.
And I mean, you know, I'd done a lot of live shows and stuff, but I just hadn't done anything like particularly big. I ended up going out on that, and it was amazing. And it was like some of the actually technically pays better than what I make right now. And I ended up going out and doing that. It went so well. It was tons of fun. The chick I went out with ended up getting a Grammy the next year.
Wow.
It was totally amazing and fantastic. But I got the bug, and all of a sudden now I'm in a totally different job field.
I see.
I'm full time for 8 or 9 years.
Wow.
And then at some point I go, I'm done with traveling. I want to be mixing records full time. Fortunately, at that point, I'd saved enough money. I could have done nothing for 8 months, and it wouldn't have made a difference.
Gotcha.
Because I had enough money saved. But also, over that time of doing all this touring stuff, I collected gear. I had slowly picked up things here and there. Ended up with a massive mic collection. I think I've got somewhere around 60, 70 microphones now. And obviously a crap load of outboard gear and studio gear.
Yeah, totally.
So then when I decided I want to do mixing full time, it's not only easy because I have a bunch of the gear to do it, but it's also easy because I literally have been mixing hours a day, every day for the past 10 years.
I see what you mean.
So like the quality of my mixes has completely changed. How I achieve them in terms of speed and just general workflow has completely changed, to the point that now instead of spending 10 hours on a song, an entire song in 4 hours, and it's better than it ever was when I was doing 10 hours a song.
Yeah. My 2-hour mixes are way better than my 20-hour mixes.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Right? Like once you figure out your path and like your way of approaching it, is your ability to mix.
Yeah,
it's nuts. But anyway, so yeah, then that's when I just decided that I just wanted to do mixing. And if we kind of jump back to the question we had earlier, that was make it a full-time business. Well, at that point, I already knew that the skill set was there because I'd been mixing every day for 10 years. You know, and in that time, I've also been mixing records and stuff on the side here and there when they came up that were probably things related to bands I was touring with or related to bands that they were friends with before.
Yeah.
But at that point, I didn't necessarily have the client base to make it full-time, but I had enough money saved that I could spend 6 months to find the client base. And at the end of those 6 months, if it didn't work out and the client base never came up, and it would be fine.
I see.
You know, it's almost like if you view that in a standard way, it's almost like you do your regular day job and you save so much money that you're like, I could survive for months, jump into doing it full time. And that's the, jumping head first into a pool, right? And hoping it works. But you've got a nest egg that'll kind of cover you for a couple months. And if it doesn't work, go right back to what you're doing.
Yeah. That's you know what? And that's the thing that I think everybody, that's the thing that I think I personally have been or somewhat afraid of, mostly because, it's like you got to have the money in place, the financial stability to do something like that. And two, you've got to have some sort of goal-oriented movements set up, or at least some sort of acknowledgement of what's going to happen once you start mixing your business. So this is interesting. This is cool. I like where this is going because it's showing me that And it's showing, I think, some of our listeners here that, if you really want to do this, first of all, the question of understanding the skill sets has to be answered immediately, almost. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like at a certain point, you need to understand and react and have a technical ability, almost like almost to be second nature. That is without question the first thing you have to have in place. At least that's what I'm gaining right from this. The second thing is, how do you do it in an intelligent way where you're not racking up credit card charges and missing rent at the first of every month?
That's actually a pretty big deal. I feel like that is a dangerous thing that a lot of people do. A lot of people pursue starting their business on credit. Starting their business on credit means you have a definitive commitment, a financial commitment. It means within X number of days, you need to pay X amount of dollars. And within this many days, you need to pay this many dollars.
Yep.
Don't flex around that.
Yep.
And that's a dangerous place to be when you're starting a business, because realistically, when you look at like actual larger scale businesses, not like, a personal guy making, a mixing business.
Right.
If we talk about an active business that has employees, you're expected to be able to have a run rate of like 3 years before you kind of cut out.
Yep.
You're supposed to support yourself for around 3 years. So it's not, it's dangerous to require a financial commitment by putting things on credit.
Yeah, I see. So I guess the question I was going to ask you just now, is it really about the clients, or is there something else that drives towards a successful mixing business? Is somewhat answered. Like, yes, it is about the clients, but yes, it's also about like being able to even dive into it. But if you were to be more specific, or Kenny, if you were to be more specific about, what kind of drives towards your success having a mixing business, like what are those things that help your story? Why is it that you find that you can wake up every day or every week and have someone who wants to work at your studio? You know what I mean? Is it experience? Is it your your attitude? Is it just your marketing? What is the thing that makes your overall mixing business successful? Or is it a few things?
There's a lot of passion that goes into it that goes a long way.
I see.
There's, I guess, passion for what I do, and also just wanting to be better, better than where I'm at, and better than my peers.
Yeah.
I want to be cranking out the best shit that's I really just genuinely into.
Got it.
Not just impressed by. Impressed by is great, but people can. It'd be cool if I can get someone who doesn't really like a certain type of music, find it somehow accessible just because I made it sonically pleasing.
Yeah.
And I also want to be true to what just wants, and I love doing this because another reason is because I get to hand in the music itself. I'm kind of a musician first, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
And it just gives me a hand in the music that I don't even have as much of a hand as when I play in the band. I could do a bunch of cool stuff, but as far as like arranging songs, it's almost more fun in a way to do it and help these people who have an open mind, at least, get their ideas more concrete and have it be presented a way that people find it very relatable. I don't know.
No. I think you're showing me that there is more to the success of a studio than just people coming in the door and
Oh yeah,
and getting stuff. I mean, people walk into businesses every day that are considered failing businesses and still buy shit. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean that there's like a level. That doesn't mean that it's a successful business, or maybe it does mean that it's a successful business. But the point is, like, you know,
if I wasn't able to use my brain and my creativity at all, I wouldn't have been doing this for this long.
Yeah.
I would have stopped a long time ago.
Well, here's the interesting thing. In a standard business and in a standard job, it's relevant with people a little bit.
Yeah.
But when we're talking you being a freelancer, your ability to get along with people is so much more important than it is in almost anything else.
I agree.
There are plenty of people who have a website that say, I do awesome stuff.
Mhm.
And maybe they do, maybe they don't. Maybe you'll listen to it, maybe it'll be cool, maybe it won't, right?
Yeah.
But as, let's say I'm a random client, find a random studio. If I call you up and we just have an awesome conversation and everything feels good,
Yeah.
your facility.
Yeah.
Unless there's something you just simply are missing that physically just doesn't fit my guidelines of what I need.
Sure.
Right. Exactly.
That one you wouldn't have won anyways. There's no way, right?
Yeah.
But if you pick up the phone or respond to your email with, yeah, we cost this much and you only get 10 hours in that time, or we don't help you out with setup, it fits in your hour. That's it. That's what you get.
Yeah. That
makes me want to actually go hang out with them.
No. I mean, yeah, it's never that cold for me. And even if it's remotely like that, that's if it's something that I want to do. And it's just a job. When I first talked to someone, when we're about to just the infancy of the ideas of doing a record together, it's not about price. It's not about time. It's like, what do you want to do? Like, what are we going for? Tell me about it. And like, I want to get my fucking brain working and my juices flowing, and then we start working together.
Right. The interesting thing is that I think being successful in audio, this is going to sound so fucked up because it's the opposite of what almost everyone says. Being successful in audio is not about being good at audio. Everyone you around.
Right. It's about experience with audio, and to get that experience, to get good experience, you have to be someone that people want to be around.
Right.
Yeah.
You need
aspect
you
of
it. You know how in a lot of other things they always say there's like that little pyramid, right? It's either cheap, it's fast, or it's really high quality.
Mhm.
Yeah.
One of those three, you sit somewhere on that pyramid, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
So it's the same with audio. It's like quality stuff. Awesome. You could be, cheap, and you could be awesome to deal with.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're going to be somewhere in between those. And if you're all the way on one, you might get some people. If you're all the way in another, you might get some other people. If you're all the way in another, you might get some other people. But realistically, you need to have all three of those to be able to some sort of success.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You could be absolutely fantastic and really, really cheap and be an asshole to deal with. People will probably be, oh, cool.
Yeah, it's
You
almost
could
like
be
you need to fulfill 2 out of 3 of those things. It's either it's like, is it cheap or free? Is it, are you okay to deal with? And how long does it take you to work on it? And if you can get like between 2 out of those things, then
Yeah.
people will always come back to you. Because if it's cheap and if it's cheap and it's late, like I don't know how that logic will work.
Well, there's price, there's speed, and there's quality.
Well, I don't even count speed. I say
But
ease
all
of
right,
use with it.
follow through, I guess you could say.
That's like the personable part of it. That's not
know.
necessarily
I know.
speed. It's like how you are to deal with that as a person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're genuine and you're on time, that means you're great to deal with as a person.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? I mean, if you take like 6 months and you told me you take, 2 days, well, then that's not really just a reflection of time, but it's a direct reflection of how you are as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So, as I was saying, it could be super cheap and great, and you could be an asshole, and people would probably be okay with it. It could be really, really good, and you're the best person in the world to deal with, and people would probably be okay with it too.
Yeah. I mean, you have to find the right clientele, or it might take a while, but for sure.
Right. So, kind of the sum of that whole bit of conversation, though, is that like success in audio is not just the quality of your work. It's like a bunch of things that are way beyond that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting to know, because I think a lot of people get caught up in the I think a lot of people get caught up in the they figure out some of it, and they start a business, and then they kind of are surprised, or they find themselves in a situation where maybe the business isn't really doing well, and it has nothing to do with the fact that they have a space and that they have the gear, or that people don't call them. You know what I mean? It's like you can easily say, yes, I'm going to do this. I have the ability to do it. Let's just do it. If you build it, they will come. But it's almost like you need to see the multiple parts of everything to understand how, you're going to kind of achieve this business. You know what I mean? Because I personally don't think that like you're saying, the clients, like, it's not just one thing. It's multiple different things and how they all balance over the course of every single job. Because, work leads to work. People talk. People know what's going on with you and your business. Because, I mean, if you're putting work out there, people are going to have stories about you. You know what I mean? So it's like all these tiny different things in this big machine. You know what I mean? I think that's really interesting. So it's like the next part. You've decided this is how you're going to do it full time. How am I going to sustain this business? You know what I mean? That's like the next part of it, I almost think.
And here's the next hole I always see people fall into, and working in a bubble. So there are these guys who are sitting in a room and making absolutely fantastic mixes, absolutely crushing it.
Yeah.
Well, why don't I have clients, and why am I not making a bunch of money doing this? I do this better than that guy who makes a lot of money, and I do this better than that guy who makes a lot of money.
Yeah.
But it's entirely a bubble. They're sitting in a place where they're working by themselves, and nobody knows who they are, and nobody has heard their work, and there isn't that outreach and interaction, and that, I guess it's missing that social aspect, the aspect where people go, oh man, I love working with this dude. Because if they never meet you and they never find out about you, or they've never heard of your studio or any of those things, then it doesn't matter if you do good work.
Oh yeah. Dude, yesterday I was when we were working that gig, I watched the A1 suggest who gets cut early from the gig just because they had to downsize the staff for financial reasons. And I knew I knew that they cut certain people based on the way those certain people were acting throughout the entire day. You know
or
what I mean?
even people that were just totally under the radar. They go, I don't know who the fuck that guy is. I don't know what he's done. Get rid of him. We're done.
Exactly.
Right.
And I watched that conversation happen. I watched him say, yep, this. And then I watched the person who does the cutting, just because that's their job, cut the people. Like it wasn't even, like, you wouldn't even known what conversation had happened. You just knew that, we just need to cut people early because whatever, you're not needed. But but with me, like, I see the social aspect of it now that I do these things, and I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? When I saw this person acting a certain way, I picked up on it because the certain person that I'm talking about, got cut for, I don't know, whatever. Anyways, that's not important. The point is, the real pros and the people that want to make it work will make the decisions that make everything easier overall. You know what I mean? And if you, for instance, are a person that can't make something work, or you lack the social ability, or the clarity, or the support, or just the demeanor, then you don't fit in. You know what I mean? And it makes everything more difficult. So that was a bit of a rant. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I mean, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so it's
it's
interesting.
being successful than just making good mixes.
Yeah.
And what if we were to pick? Okay, Dan, what are the 3 things that you do to ensure your success? Just pick 3. It doesn't have to be the 3. It could be any 3 that you consciously make an effort to do to ensure that you maintain success.
They are really off the top of my head. The first 3 are: I never stop learning, and I'm vocal about that.
Mhm.
I am never, ever, ever a dick, even to people that I do not like, or have reservations about. What's that?
You were addicted to
Apparently, I was.
because that wasn't his name, man. He had some other name that I still don't know how to pronounce, and you called him Taco, and he was like, "Fuck you, man. Fuck you. You're out."
Yeah, that's what happens
Anyway,
when you're.
all right, that's number 2.
So yeah, number 2 is I'm never a dick, ever, even though the person probably deserves it. I'm always constantly trying to learn and be eager and supportive. And 3, I make it a point to always listen to everybody. I listen so much that sometimes I feel like I'm not talking at all, and the person I'm talking to is doing all the talking. And I sometimes get weird, like, oh, I hope this person doesn't feel like they're the only person talking in this conversation. You know what I mean? So I constantly do those 3 things. Some of them are one of them's subconscious, and 2 of them are rather, very obvious things. But that's all I do. I always try and ask questions and receive complex answers because I like listening and being someone to talk to. You know what I mean? And I've been doing that for a long time. And it's only been recent where I've specifically started being like not talking about negative stuff, where I've said, I'm just going to take everything that I do and just remove the negative talk. Now I don't complain. I don't do any of that stuff anymore. I do not do any of that. So
I absolutely believe in that. I absolutely believe in the never talking about negative stuff and just staying positive pretty much always thing.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean those all make total sense. I mean, Kenny, what are your 3 if you had to pick 3 things?
I don't know.
I agree, but
I was thinking about what you just said. It's so much about attitude because I bitch all the time. You know, like that's how I don't do it in like a mopey way. I do it as a way to, I mean,
fucking dying in here. You dying in here? Fucking dying in here.
it breaks the ice, and it makes it fun to talk to people sometimes. It's not. I'm not. I wouldn't say that I'm negative when I do it. It's just
no, I don't think you're negative at all.
It's
is you're finding a way to unify everybody in a conversation, right?
Yeah. I mean,
everybody has an opinion on, and you can all kind of unify on it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And
yeah.
It's easier to do that when you're bitching about something that sucks to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I'm not afraid of conflict, but conflict isn't my favorite thing.
Right.
My least favorite thing.
It doesn't end up to be anything good anyways, right?
Yeah.
Right. True. Yeah. So it's just having the right attitude and having tact and having just kind of thinking before you speak sometimes.
Yeah.
As for success, and the stuff I was just saying, like Dan said, it's I not only do I not stop learning, I kind of treat every time I sit down to do work, like I try to find joy in the small thing, the tiniest little thing. Even if that's just like deciding that, okay, I guess I have the experience. My ears are at the point where I know that, this doesn't sound right, and what to do to try to fix that.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, yeah, Dan kind of hit it on the head with a lot of them. It's having the right attitude, not being shitty to anyone. Because if feel the need, if someone's that shitty that you feel the need to be shitty to them,
You probably
then
shouldn't be there and just get out of it.
you shouldn't be in there in the first place. Like, everyone should get on with their life and get back to what they love doing and what they're good at doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's-
It's kind of insane how negative once you kind of take a once you kind of abstain from negativity, it's really amazing once you start to understand how much of a part it plays in everybody's lives all the time, and how much it consumes everybody around you.
Once you get rid of it, it becomes very, very interestingly obvious and surprising how common it is just in everything. Like,
we're so
you ask someone how their day was, they usually talk about what sucks and not what was awesome.
Yeah.
The thing is, sometimes it's like, I think people hate it so much that they love it. They end up loving it.
I don't know if they
take Facebook,
yeah.
for example. Much negativity on Facebook recently, and I mean, it's like some of your best friends, and it's just being wise about how you put things out there. Like, be someone that everyone can work with, and that everyone wants to work.
Well, the interesting thing about negativity on Facebook is that Facebook and social media in general has given everybody a platform to stand on to yell at the world, and it's not a conversation. It's just I'm telling you.
Yeah, there's no more conversations. There's just, this is my opinion. This is,
you need to be listening to it, right?
Yeah.
So that, in terms of human interaction and just the way people actually deal with people in real life, successful way to manage people.
It's
right?
funny. It's so similar, but I feel like Reddit has it better than Facebook, because Reddit, people can downvote things.
Yeah, it's self-contained. It's awesome.
Yeah, no matter what you say, it can only go up, really. I mean, unless you're starting arguments via comments.
Right.
But everyone feels great when they post something on Facebook.
Yeah. There's an interesting subreddit that, this is a little off topic. I think it's called Change My View, or change my opinion, or something like that. And basically, it's someone asks a question where they don't agree with something, and basically the subreddit is about people who have changed their opinions based on someone's answer. And every person who comments on the subreddit, they get points as a person who's changed the opinion of, there's a couple of people out there who have hundreds of thousands of people's opinions minds that have changed because of the way they explain and talk to someone. I am not. What's that?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just an example. Just, I am not this. Change my opinion, and it's not like argue with me. It's, I really want you to convince me. You know what I mean? I got to find the subreddit. I'll share it with you guys.
No, it's actually a really interesting thing, because that is about people being successful at explaining, right?
Yeah.
And
that is a successful trait of even something in audio, right?
Yeah.
If someone goes, hey man, I want the kick drum to sound like John Bonham, but I want my bass to sound like super growly, blah blah, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And explain to your bandmate why the physics of that don't work.
Is everything.
I mean, that's an asset, right?
Yeah.
But
That's true.
at the same time, you need to be able to extract from them what it is they actually want out of it in the end to achieve a goal that they're totally happy with, but also sound a little weird, but convince them of a goal that they should be happy with because you know that it is what presents that song in the best light possible. Does that make sense?
It does. For clarification, the subreddit is Change My View. It's fucking amazing. Yeah.
My favorite subreddit is M5.
What is it?
Explain it
ELI.
like
Oh, explain it like a 5. Yeah.
the best. I think. Weird stuff off that. But anyways, to jump back on topic.
Yeah.
Wait.
To jump back.
There's,
Hold on, he's got one more.
there's a offshoot of that. It's explain like I'm jive. It's really fun. It's like,
Oh, that's awesome.
you know, what's the deal with rocket science? Like, and they'll just jive.
That's
Just
actually pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome.
It's really funny.
I love it.
On topic. So, I mean, I think the crux of our past 20 minutes or so has basically been that your audio skills are only a marginal part of your ability to be successful in audio.
True.
It's people management skills that are a huge part. It's business management skills that are a huge part, and it's kind of your planning.
Yeah.
So business management and people skills and all that stuff kind of jump into the next bit. It's like back to what you were talking about, Dan. You're like, whoa, maybe I should just go rent a big space and just make a studio. Well, then comes the next question: do you need a professional facility to mix records full time and make money doing it?
And from what I've gathered, and from what my opinion, especially in today's world with today's kind of technology, I feel like here's where the viable part comes in. I think if your level of achievement, or if the level of success, the level of viability you want for your clients requires you to have a professional facility to mix or maybe even track the records, then I think, yes, you do. But I feel like if you can achieve that sound in your studio at home in a desk that's bought from IKEA with no outboard gear and some cheap control surfaces your friend Ryan gave you for a small amount of money, I feel like you could.
Well,
That last part had nothing to do with me. No, I'm kidding.
The moment
Yeah, go for that,
you
Ryan.
have
Sorry.
a professional mix facility in a space, you now have a cost overhead.
Yeah.
Whereas you could do this work, potentially in your house, potentially with outboard gear, without outboard gear. There are a lot of ways to kind of approach this. The way you do it that is technically most efficient, right?
True.
But if a portion of you achieving success is you inviting clients into your space, there's definitely an impress factor that affects people. I mean, this is why you see sexy studio photos everywhere. I mean, hell, we post them all the time. There's that impress factor. And it is probably part of what brought you to watch this class today.
Yep.
But, we don't need a professional facility to achieve mixes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
We make a professional facility
Not at
in
all.
order to achieve the professional appearance of
Yeah,
what
and I mean, maybe this is wrong, but some of it gives me a little bit of a creative spark too. Just like being in the right atmosphere, but it's certainly not necessary.
Right. Yeah, I mean, some of the dudes that I know that are working on huge records are literally doing them on headphones on a laptop with like a UAD satellite plugged into it.
Yeah.
Just one.
If you think of it in terms of efficiency, that is the most cost effective and most efficient, right? Which means it's the highest profit margin. not to like throw business terms at this whole thing, but ultimately, if you're trying to make your mixing business into a successful, viable business, then parts of this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's interesting. I think, yeah, I completely agree with you, man. I think it's about, you know, it's about all of that. It's about, you know, can you do it? Do you need the space to impress people? Do you have a plan to get the client? Is the client's, like, are you in the client's shoes? Is there enough people that have the problem that you're trying to solve with whatever amount of money you poured into starting your business? You know what I mean? Like, do you have the tracking room specifically for guitars? Are you trying to attract guitar people? Do you have the tracking room that has huge drums? Do you have the tracking studio that can manage a sightline between 4 to 5 different individuals and yourself so that everybody can track all at the same time? Do you have this? Do you have that? Do you just need a vocal booth to do voiceover stuff because you're in post
Mhm.
and that's all you do? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's a question. The question is like, it goes beyond the facility. It goes beyond what is your intent with the facility once you have it, not facility first. Now what do I do with it? You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's actually a good thing to point out. Pointing out your defined goal, right? So in the idea of a studio, if your idea is to be a tracking room, specifically be able to track rock bands, well, then you definitely need a great drum room. You'll need a good bunch of preamps. You'll need a great mic collection. But you
Yep.
don't necessarily mix, right? If
Yeah.
your intention is to be a tracking room where you want to do jazz records, well, then you definitely need to have a good spot where you can do pianos, things like that, you know, all sorts of details, right?
Yeah.
If your intention is a mix room, maybe your live room is only 10 by 10 because you're only doing overdub stuff in it. And instead, you have a fantastic set of monitors, a well-tuned room, and maybe a bunch of outboard gear. But you probably also want to have space so band members can sit in the control room to be able to hear this mix.
Yeah.
You want a large format console at that point, but that again is a big maybe.
Mhm.
And there are plenty of studios that exist almost only can come in and listen to a mix that someone else has done.
Yeah.
I'm not going to names because maybe that's a weird thing to start talking about because I don't know if that's
No, but it's an interesting concept. I mean, puts it in perspective a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been to studios before where the way their mix room is set up is really just to impress clients. They've got giant mains, they've got a great set of mixing speakers, but in terms of the way it's actually, you're not necessarily going to do a whole mix there. You might
Right.
bring stuff you're working on there and then have your client come in and listen to it so that now they feel that it's valuable that they're spending, you know, $5,000 a song.
Right.
Walk into the space and they go, I feel super comfortable. There's an espresso machine here. There's a beautiful couch. There's, you know, great Wi-Fi. There's air conditioning. And I get to
Love that.
all this beautiful gear and listen to this mix on this fantastic set of speakers.
Right.
And, you know, all these weird little details that kind of imply that it's designed for a client to come in and just listen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's about deciding on your goal. And if your goal is to be a full-time mix engineer and work on projects remotely, your requirements are different than to be a full-time mix engineer and have your artist come in and sit there while you mix.
Yeah.
Additionally, your requirements are different than I want to track records.
Right.
Requirements are different than I enjoy impressing people with photos of stuff.
Right.
I could make a website right now with an SSL 9000, a 4000, a Neve, 5000 series, a Neve 8000 series, a VR, an API Vision, and here you could imagine. And I could post it online as if I own that. And that might even change the clients I get.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you own any of that.
Yeah, it's Midge is huge.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So, yeah, I come from you first. You know, like that's what's gonna, I think, in my opinion, your passion and your you know, being able to work with E by other people, that's what's gonna that's like the foundation, really. And
Yeah.
then there's a lot of other things, though. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, there's a lot of money involved, and it's not just I don't just mean getting paid. I mean like looking like you know.
Right. But then, then comes the question, how much of it is looking the bit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at my website. My website doesn't really say much about gear I use, but I have a ridiculously fantastic client list on it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, I've got links to audio files, right? My website looks like a website made in like 1998. It looks like a GeoCities thing.
It does.
Not Alta Vista, Angel Fire. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's not like it's a fancy website by any means, but fortunately, I have a client list that people look at and they go, "Holy fuck, that's like I know all of those people."
Yeah.
But at that point, nobody asked me anything about the gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had a website that just had amazing gear in it. You need to remember, engineers know gear, bands don't.
That's true. That's why you have. That's why people started making fake panels of gear.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like this one right here?
That thing's
Yeah.
awesome. You're gonna send me one.
Dude, I gotta send you one of these things.
Yeah.
Man. It's the best.
So funny.
Yeah.
That just impresses a musician enough for them to go, oh, whoa, you own a bunch of gear. But the thing is, the musician doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
They just want to feel like they're paying for something valuable. They want to feel like what they're paying for is backed up by years of success and backed up by a massive financial investment. And it's not necessary that you actually have done those things.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello? Did we just lose Ryan?
Oh, we lost you.
Yeah, I can see.
Oh, there he is. You're still there.
I saw that my audio stopped. But anyways, what I was saying is that the actual only important thing is that the product you give them is the best possible product for their project.
Yeah.
The rest of it are details, but the rest of it are details that might get you a client or might not get you a client.
Yeah. I see what you mean. That's awesome, man. I think that's really cool. We were going to jump into some stuff about, what does your studio need to succeed, or what do successful studios need to succeed? But what's really cool...
Maybe we can actually make a proper class about exactly that for next week.
Well, what's interesting is that we already did a proper class about that. So, with that, what I was going to do and what I just did while you guys were chatting at the end there, I made our what does your studio drive? Sorry, it's what does your studio need to succeed class public again. Since that was a topic that relates kind of to this entire thing, we actually did an entire breakdown of the different aspects of a physical studio and maybe even just your studio or your studio mentality that is required to kind of have not required, but it's things that successful studios do and continue to do in order to kind of drive towards their success. We posted a clip about that a couple months back. Wow, that was already 2 months ago. Holy shit. That's why it doesn't feel like it happened. But we posted a clip about that recently. Even wrote an article about it on our Mix Wednesday blog. But what I'm going to do is, like I just did, it's called What Does Your Studio Need to Succeed? I just made it live. It's a great class. We have a great topic and conversation about many different aspects of what goes on in a successful studio, what things Ryan has seen, what I've seen, what Kenny does, you know what I mean? And I want to make that available for you guys so you can watch it because I think it's very relevant and highly important to understand because there's a lot of underlying themes in that kind of are reminding me of this class. But this is more focused, I think, on just your own personal success, less of a studio success, I guess. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, man. So with that, let's just say, or what was it? I have that Where's that sheet? So let's just do a quick review. You have, at the point at which you decide to make this a full-time business, and this requires, I guess you could say, somewhat of a tactful financial situation and your ability to have a plan in place and make this your full-time thing. I guess that's a question of how much do you really want to do this full-time? Because if you do, then start doing it.
Right.
The second question, is it about having clients or is it about something else completely? Well, we kind of answered that in a way where it's multiple different things. It's your mentality. It's your ability to interact socially. It's your ability to find and make friends with multiple different types of people and work in situations with multiple different types of people, all different types of people, and analyze those situations and how to come out in those situations so that people want to hang out and talk to you again. Because I mean, you never, you know what I mean? That's really what it comes down to. I feel like, do you leave the conversation on a good spot? Do you want to hang out with that person? Do you want to chat with that person? Is that good person a good person? Do they make you comfortable? And then, yeah, you don't really need a professional facility to mix records, but you do need the skills, and you do need to understand what your client's needs are, or just what your needs are to succeed doing it full time, doing mixing full time. So I think that kind of goes through some really fundamental aspects of how to kind of create a viable mixing business on your own if you're starting from almost nothing. Because I mean, I think all three of us, we didn't really get born into this business. We just kind of started doing it, and we've ended up in a place where we're doing really cool stuff now. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like Chris Lord Algae is my uncle or something. You know what I mean? So,
Yep.
so yeah. So like I said, feel free to check out the Studio Success class that I just posted live and made live for us in public. Feel free to check out the Facebook group. That's where it kind of all started. And yeah, check out our blog. We haven't updated in a while. That's going to be changing soon. And yeah, every Wednesday we do this. So every Wednesday we ask you to come hang and yeah, go fucking mix between that. All right. So we'll talk to you guys later. And yeah, see ya. Have a good night.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Guys, see ya.
Bye.